Hey everyone, thanks for checking out this episode of Nudawn, a Final Fantasy XI podcast. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe or follow, and if you feel inclined to do so, hit us with a like, leave us a comment or review. We really appreciate it. But other than that, enjoy the episode. All right, everyone. Welcome in. This is, I believe, episode 8 of our pretty little podcast, and we've got a special guest tonight. But before we let him introduce himself, we have Rua here, who is in recovery, and Vob, who just got off the golf game apparently. So, where'd the hat go, dude?
That's over here. I wanted to make you jealous of my hairline.
He had orange shorts, orange shirt, orange hat.
I don't have orange shorts. They were blue. I was bitching about not having orange shorts.
All right,
there it is.
There you
go. There you go. See.
Well, tonight we also have Mr. I think Hunter is what you wanted me to go by, right, Mr. Hunter, from Huntin4Games, which is a special channel to me. But before I give you my little story about that, tell us about yourself, man. Who are you?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. Hunter with Huntin4Games, a YouTuber and Twitch streamer about really multiple games, but primarily focused on Final Fantasy XI, which I'm sure we're going to be talking about quite a bit tonight. But my favorite game of all time.
Yeah. Tonight's is actually a little bit different gear for us because I'm excited. So we're going to focus a little bit more on the community side tonight, because one of the main reasons I wanted to get you on here, and Rua alluded to this, was we've just seen an uptick in people creating content for the game, which is pretty cool on a game that is entering. Well, we're now in 18 years now.
Yep, the game's legal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it depends what depends what the guy's trying to buy, but for me actually, which is kind of ironic, I'm back for about over a year now. But I mean, there was multiple factors that brought me back, but there was actually a Reddit post just over a year ago. I don't know if it was one of your friends or who it was, but they posted about you like, hey, here's my dude, he's trying to make this channel. So I was like, checked it out, and I was like, okay, people still play the game. Okay. Because I was already like resubbed because it was the anniversary campaign. And, but some of the content kind of drew me back in. So, you played a small part in me getting sucked back into this addictive game.
That's awesome, and I'm sorry.
No. Thank you. It's been a fun year. So
that's my line.
Yeah.
I was about to say, anytime anyone's like, yeah, you helped me get back into the game, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, first of all. How are you?
Are you okay?
You want to talk about it?
Yeah. So are you a day one player? Like, did you PS2, or did you come later on?
Definitely PS2. I can't say day one because I honestly had no idea this game was coming out day one. I was sucked in by a friend of mine like a month after launch. He'd started with a bunch of people that would later become like my best friends, and they all started together, and he was talking to me about it in one day. He's like, this game is amazing. I was like, I've played Final Fantasy 9 and 10. Is it like similar? He's like, no, but it's so good. I don't even remember what he said. He just totally talked me into it. And they were all at the time, I thought, so far ahead of me. They were, I think, level like 15. Somebody had a sub job, and I was like, I'll never catch up. It's impossible. Like, I'm too far behind.
Level 15, but that's 6 months worth of work right there.
I think it did take them like a month to get that far. So, I was not officially day one, but the first couple months. And do I have it out? I'm packing and moving. I might have my...
Got the OG box?
The controller.
Oh,
wow.
Man. 10 of these.
That belongs in a museum.
Yeah, that's a relic.
You
could have your own quest line.
You need to get that thing in a shadow box on the back wall.
Wait, hang on.
He's got something special for us.
You can see it. That's what that is. It is a shadow box version of this controller. It's too dark, so you can't see what's going on. It was a gift.
We didn't plan this, by the way. It's totally ironic.
No, it is funny though, because like we were talking the other day that I have a million Logitech things and none of them have ever broken except this controller, and not a single one of them has survived more than like 6 months because it'll slide off your lap and crash in the ground. But I love the PS2 version of this game. I'd still be playing it if it was.
Yeah, my story is kind of similar. Like I had a friend who, ultimately ended up buying it on the PC first because it came out a few months ahead of the PS2. And I just went over there and he was just like killing rabbits. And I don't know why I thought this was going to be enjoyable. But then I pre-ordered I remember, I don't know if they do this anymore, but I put the original PS2 version with the hard drive on layaway at Walmart. I remember like talking my dad into letting me put something on layaway, and it was like $100. I'm like, oh my God, I couldn't just, or whatever it was at the time. It was pretty fairly priced. But after that, we had to get, because then we only had dial-up. So when we connected, you ate up the phone line. So they had this like premium service then to where you could like, I don't even know, like get like 2 phone rings or separated. I don't know. It was all complicated then. But I remember like the first 6 months, it was like my dad just hating me because no one could call. But then also sometimes I don't know if you guys are ever on dial up, but sometimes it would just disconnect you. So if you were like in an intense party, it's like, oh my God, someone's trying to call Jesus. But yeah. Well, so were you, I mean, how hardcore did you get into it? Like in the prime days, like 75 cap, did you, lose your life and all these other things too? Or is it pretty casual?
100%. No, it's funny because I'll talk about how I would totally consider myself having given up my entire life to 11 in those days. But that means so many different things to different people. Like my one friend, he was basically a Dark Knight and then a Red Mage, and he took that to 75, and that was like all he did. He eventually leveled Paladin, I think. But really, he was just Dark Knight and Red Mage forever. I would get up to 75, do like 3 Dynamis runs, and then start something else and swing. So like I had 7 or 8 jobs at 75 with fairly average gear. I would occasionally sneak my way into Limbus runs and stuff like that. But I never had a continuous, every week we're doing this on Tuesday, this on Thursday, this on Saturday. But I was still playing
constantly
all those days. But I would always be like, I can't commit. What happens if I have a schedule conflict? And then I'm playing constantly anyway.
Just
and I never
12 hours a day. Else. Did you guys do the, were you guys doing Dynamis when there was like 64 people in there?
Yes.
I think the most I ever jumped in was like around 30 something.
Rua loves the 75 cap era. It was his favorite. He has fond memories. No, he came later. He came later on in the journey. So
I was still there for part of the 75 end game, but for the most part, I just could not get into it because the majority of the big link shells back on, I think it was on Leviathan at first, saying, "Oh, you need to. Since you live in Europe, we need you to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning." And I was going to college to go and get into university at that point. I'm like, nah, screw that for a bag of chips. I'm not doing that.
It was so hardcore, man. I remember my freshman year of college. Like I would still because Chimera and all the spawn windows, the 3-hour spawn windows, and you had to set alarms. And I'd get up at like 4 a.m. when I got 8 a.m. classes, just like committing myself. I'm like, what am I doing? Then I quit for a few years after that. But
I could never do that at all.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I can count on one hand the number of like H&Ms or 24-hour pops that I've been involved in. They were very rare. The stuff that you could maybe say was always like in the evening at a certain time I could jump in on, but those pops I never could get involved with.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
I was dumb, so I did a whole lot of those, a lot more than I really should have.
Bob ran it. He was the
no, but my high school grades definitely reflected H&M camping.
My theory about Final Fantasy XI is that your fondness or hatred of the 75 era and your memories depends entirely on whether or not you were heavily involved in an H&M link shell.
Yeah,
because everybody I've talked to, it's like one or the other side of that conversation.
Yeah,
Well-
I can get on board with that.
Yeah. Too, and some of the content that like I watch of yours, it seems like a lot of the things that you come up with are because you have better memories of those areas because you didn't do some of those things. I don't know what your thought process goes into when you're creating some of your topics, but I don't know if maybe you want to talk about that for a minute, but I kind of see it in some of the videos that I watch.
Yeah, I mean, the lame answer is it totally depends on how I'm feeling that day. Like some days you just walk away from Final Fantasy XI like, I hate this stupid game. Why am I still playing this? And like, it's really hard to make a video about like, I remember the good old days when you just are so frustrated. Then other times you'll hear like the Selbina soundtrack will pop on and it just makes you think of some stupid thing about the first time you went to Selbina. Those are the easier days where it's easy to make some nostalgic video about like how much I loved like the early days. Because I really did love the 75 era of 11, but it's easy. I know it's rose-colored glasses. Like I would spend hours of wasted time just waiting for parties and wandering to get somewhere and then dying when I got there and having to do it all over again. Like I fully remember that, but I've kind of blocked it away.
Yep.
And I remember the good stuff. But it is mostly because I never got super involved in endgame link shells for a long time. I would do it like for a month or two, and then I would kind of fall off. I would do a lot of leveling. Like I loved the leveling process, so everything was always different because I was changing jobs around, so it felt and kept things like kind of fresh. But I had some friends who just do only endgame stuff really intensely every week, week in, week out, on the same jobs. And by the end of it, if you talk to them about the 75 era, they can't stand it. And I'm like, I'm not surprised. Like, you must have been losing your mind doing the same stuff every week. Which, I mean, it's easy to get into because of the reward system and how much you want to get into the stuff. But
yeah, it was it's actually like, this is where, one of the questions I was going to bring up later, I think this just fits in good now, is like, I would love for there to be do you guys know what No Clip is, the channel on YouTube? No. So, No Clip, what they do is they do documentaries on the creation of games. And there's actually a Final Fantasy 14 one that went through like the terrible 14 original. And he actually gets to interview all of the creators, like all the it was a crowdfunded thing. But I think it would be really interesting to see an 11 version of that, of like what the mindset was to make the game so hardcore. Like oh
my God, yeah.
Like some of the brutal things.
There have been those handful of interviews where we get like a glimpse of the mindset and like what the process was like. And I would love to have just hours of conversation about that topic alone with some of those original developers. It would be amazing.
Yeah. Well, when you die, you're going to lose 10% of your experience.
I think a lot of that's just based off of what other MMOs were out at the time. Because if you look at it, like, what was Final Fantasy 11 competing with when it came out? All of the MMOs at that era were all explicitly difficult, and they were all hardcore. There was no room in that ballpark of gaming for casual. And that's what it really was.
Yeah, I guess it was.
I heard somewhere that Final Fantasy XI was Square Enix's answer to EverQuest specifically.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
and if you look at that, I'm like, well, at least they didn't do corpse runs, because I mean, as much as I love the idea of corpse runs, I can't imagine running all the way back to like Ifrit's Cauldron, waiting behind the fire spout. And
that was
just to even get to your body.
Wow, you just gave me terrible just anxiety just thinking about those stupid spouts. Like,
not to mention, one of those No Clip videos could actually connect 14 to 11, because the first director of 14 was Tanaka, wasn't it? And he was, correct me if I'm wrong, he was pretty much the director of 11 through just before Ffxi. I'm pretty sure it was just him. And there were some players, when it was announced that he was going to be taking on 14, there were some players who were like, no.
Yep.
We can see where this is going. And sure enough, pretty sure he's the only member of the Square Enix team who was shunted to another department, which is an unceremonious way. Because he went off on a rant when the first reviews came in from like your typical places like your GameSpot, your IGN, etc. And they're like, oh, the game sales not doing so well because of the Western reviews. And then it took like Kotaku and Famitsu to hop on like, no, actually. And do you remember when Square Enix released that press release a few months into 14's life saying the game has not reached the standard that we know our fans expect. I'd never seen a company do that for a game.
Yeah, they hit on
wow.
in the 14 no clip. They hit on that exact thing of they went into it with, you know, hey, 11 worked and that recipe worked perfect, so let's just bring it right to 14. And you know, the play style, especially in the Western, had evolved so much because I think WoW was out by then, and I'm pretty sure
WoW's been out since 2003 or 4, if I remember correctly.
So obviously it was much more fast paced and easier to get into, and they just introduced, not to mention that you had to have like a mega rig to even run the game when it came out. But so how do you feel right now, I guess, about the like the community in general? Because from outside in, it's exciting to me because I feel like there's a pretty well-rounded group of creators, because people like Rua are just phenomenal at the lore videos, the amount of knowledge, but then also like in-depth guides. But then the content that you create is like, okay, this is why I play the game. It's like all of the reasons to reinforce why I should continue to play. But how involved are you kind of with keeping up with some of the other aspects, or kind of how do you feel the state of the community is now?
I mean, it's hilarious because I feel like when I first made my first Final Fantasy 11 video ever, which I didn't think was going to do anything. I was like, oh, nobody's really making too many videos about this. Like, it was such an amazing game, and there's like a few out there, but not much is going on. And I love that there's like so many different creators that I've noticed these days. It's awesome to see it like getting so much life, and now Square Enix itself is like kind of ramping up their whole patch game. The August update has new story content for the first time in 5 years, and they were going to have the Fan Fest that got unfortunately canceled, but like you can just feel like Final Fantasy 11 has more life going on in the community and officially. Which is awesome.
Yeah, no, I think in Rua, this might be where you're going, but in some aspects, I think the community is like what kept the game alive, to be honest. Like, I think looking back at some of these 100%. Things, go ahead, Rua.
I think, that's similar to what I was going to say. I think that even Square Enix themselves are legitimately surprised how big the community groundswell around the game still is. I'm not sure what the Japanese player base numbers are, but they seem pretty consistent from what I can gather. But I think even they're surprised that they still have to do fan fests. Like, okay, now I think they're gonna test the waters with, okay, here's the new story content. And initially, we were saying the other day that something big for the 20th anniversary would be a bit of a pipe dream. But if numbers go up, if people like myself and Hunter are making content, and new people are making content, I did something with Retired Gamers a few weeks ago, and if that continues to go up, like, we have an asset here which is not losing us money, it's actually making us money. We might as well capitalize on it. And I can't help but feel that's why they restructured their online games division, because they've had a look at the numbers and like, this is surprising, but we're just going to go with it. So I think that even they're surprised.
We always like to joke. Sorry,
go ahead.
That Square Enix has like been trying to kill 11 for years, ever since right before 14 1.0 came out, and because we had a joke like 10 years ago saying, 11's done when they give you everything you could have ever wanted. And then right before Abyssia, they announced, like, we're going to do the level cap race to 99. Everybody's going to have sub jobs that have all your cool abilities, like convert and stuff that used to be job specific. And it's going to be this awesome thing. We're like, they're just riding this into the sunset. They're going to give us one last like year-long progression of stuff that nobody's ever had before, get everybody to come back, and then expect everybody to hop over to 14. And then 14 had like its disastrous 1.0, and they kind of tried to recover. They're like, well, we're going to introduce some new stuff to keep the 11 still a thing, and we're still pumped. And they just keep expecting it to die, and like the community won't let it
die.
Everyone just loves it so much.
Yeah,
I mean, it's literally the point, like the beating the dead horse. I mean, at this point, the horse of 11 is literally just a skeleton, and here we all are, 18 years later, picking the joints out and whatnot, trying to figure out what new thing we can tackle when there hasn't been anything new, like he just said, in about 5 years. and now we've got new content coming, and I don't think anyone really expected that, or at least some, we still haven't seen it. For all we know, it could just be rehashed of Mugo Kupo Deate or whatever. But I totally mispronounced the dog shit out of that. But
I'm an expert at that. If you watch Friday's little stream, but
coup d'etat.
Sure.
I think, and what's interesting is like they really haven't introduced a lot. Just like being back a year and a half, like of extra like content, but like people are just still here, and I think that's too like while they're like. It's also funny to me. This is a different topic, but like they keep saying something's not possible, and then all of a sudden it becomes possible. Like this whole like I remember like 2 or 3 episodes ago we were talking about the storage system, and they came out in an interview and said it's just not possible for us to add any more storage. And then now this last interview they said, okay, yeah, we actually have new MOG things coming probably in 2021. I'm like, okay, like what's going on here? But
I thought they said that the story content was impossible because it was all based on PS2 dev kits, and they had like one left and it was running on twigs and rubber.
Yeah, we always joke there's a closet there with like a sack of potatoes that the servers are running on, but
just all plugged
the room next to it's got 4,000 hamsters running on a treadmill, and they're down to their last 5.
Yeah, no, like it's the same. Like I think with the PS2 dev kit, they somehow got by that. Like they were able to get. Like
they must have. I'm so curious to find out in the future what happened, because they kept saying there's no way the dev kits are gone. We're basically running a borrowed time as it is. And then they're like, we got new content coming, and it's brand new in 2020. I'm like, you did something.
So do you think? Go ahead, sorry, Ray.
I think it's that whole restructuring of their online division, because that was only a few months ago. And ever since then, they've come out with all these things. We've since that restructure, and now we've had the announcement of more storage, story content. They're able to add new ambuscades. They're adding more battlefields in future. It's like, I think that they've got some more of the resources from the rest of the departments, and maybe they are trying to prepare to like move it off the PS2 dev kit.
What if
that would be a pretty big game engine overhaul would be.
Rua's little, in case you don't know, he sprinkles it in every episode, but he desperately wants a game engine update. It's like he keeps telling. He's like whenever I go to the movies and I'm like, I don't want to be like underwhelmed, so I'm just like, this movie's going to be terrible. There's no way it's going to be good. That way, if it does happen, Rua is going to be like just like kid in a candy shop. What's interesting too is like, this sounds silly, but like, what if like this whole like COVID thing with like a shift of people like working from home, people like gaming while they're working at home. So now they see this massive uptick in their player base. They're like, how do we exploit this? But
I mean, you laugh, but that probably is part of it. I noticed I noticed a big influx of players on Azura, especially.
Bro, it hit 5,000.
Yeah, we hit 5,000 players. I'm like, yeah, we did. But then again, you have to say, okay, how many of those are alts and whatnot? But I've noticed personally, I noticed a big uptick in the number of players sending me tells like, oh, I was thinking of coming back to the game. I saw your channel. And I saw other people's channels. I'm like, thanks. I'm like, okay. But I've noticed a lot more of it.
Yeah.
I mean, people are at home and they're like, I need a huge immersive game that can suck away tons of time. What's out there in terms of like MMOs, and it's tough. You got the Final Fantasy 14s and WoWs, and they're great, but they have a different structure that doesn't necessarily say like this will last you for years, because it's all about the new patches coming out every 3 months, every 6 months, and sort of giving you just enough to get to that point. Whereas 11 is just like, this will be.
Bro, 11 is also kind of the perfect game to have like side playing, because think about it, like. I remember, like, I'm on baby leave right now for another month, but Einenhar is like, okay, once an hour, I just go in. So I just take a little break from work, and I can do Einenhar every hour on the hour. So I built up like 40,000, Iker, and there's like all those little time gated things that are super annoying just fit so well into work from home. So,
I need to get back on with that.
So, do you think that you, and this might be a tougher question, Hunter, do you think that you'd still be playing if you didn't have the community that you have now built from your YouTube videos and stuff like that?
I doubt it. At least definitely not as much. So the thing with 11 is I'm always going to come back. Every time I've said I'm going to leave, I leave for a little bit and then I'll be back. But I don't know if I would stick around for as long. The community definitely gets me through rough patches. There are times when I'm just like, I'm so frustrated. All I see is numbers and the grindiness, and I don't see any of the fun that we usually have. And normally it's those moments where I'm like, I'm going to take a break, and I end up taking a break for like 3 months, 6 months, something like that. And then I come back. And the community usually manages to keep me sort of level set through that until I start picking up the fun again. And certainly the smaller community of like who I play with on a week-to-week basis, without them in a game like 11, I would never make enough progress where I'd be enjoying myself and want to stick around. There are certain things I can solo, but I've hit the limit of what benefit that can bring me.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally why, we made the link shell a year ago was, there was clearly a demand for just a little bit of structure for people. So when they log in, they don't have to, I mean, if you're not on our server, you may not be able to relate as much, but when they log in, it's not like, okay, how much is this content going to cost me to be able to complete? So now people have a solid group of people to be able to kind of get all the things that they want to get.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ruiz. Guess some.
Yeah, I mean that whole thing about how much is content going to cost you. Well, there's a link shell friend of mine. Sorry, this is on a slight tangent. Real
That's
quick.
Okay. It wouldn't be an episode if we didn't get one from Ruiz. I'd love it.
Yeah, a lure, an add-on lure that my link shell friend created is called "Fuck Off," where it's basically hand on heart. It's a lure called "Fuck Off." I'll PM you it afterwards. Basically, what it does, it acts as a chat filter. It identifies, even using Japanese and English, like the words that people who normally sell stuff, like all the people selling job points, it blocks them out. And it's one of the best things I've used in ages. And I was like, oh, where do you actually draw the line on add-ons? I'm like, dude, this is a fucking necessity.
Yeah, this is he's actually in talks with Square Enix to get it implemented into the game, but
but
that's hilarious.
But Hunter's right. Having a community, just having a community helps keep people around. Seeing people trying to push the limits, push the envelope, keeps people around because it keeps people thinking, clocked in and engaged. It keeps people wondering. Maybe they want to explore some more stories if it's lore based, or they'll just want to just reach out and create little communities of their own. And when communities are formed, everyone benefits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think too. Just the other night, what keeps you coming back, Hunter, is the feeling that you all got the other night when you beat Walk.
100%.
Like, I just seen it in your face. I heard it from all of the people you were playing with. Like, it's those moments there that, like, you get so pissed off playing this game. But, like, I can't name another game where it creates that level of emotion from achieving something.
So, for anybody that missed it, we beat the Warder of Courage for the first time, Tuesday?
Yeah.
And we tried, like, 10 times over 5 different nights, different strategies. Totally, we dropped people, we added more people. We kept trying to figure out the different formula to, like, for what we had. And it's tough because the one, not a criticism of the community, but with a game like 11 that's been around so long, everybody has a way that they've beaten something. And you'll be like, oh, we're struggling with this. And they're like, it's super easy. You just need this. I'm like, we don't have it.
We don't have it.
Yes, if we had 4 scholars and a red mage and then a paladin at the end, that'd be perfect. But we happen to have a mixture of jobs that isn't going to work that way, even if like 3 of us have scholar. So it's always funny when you're trying to describe the struggle and people are super nice about it. But yeah, we could not beat this thing. And it's funny. The only other thing we've struggled with like that recently was randomly one of the ambuscade months. We kept trying to beat on difficult and very difficult. We just couldn't do it regularly. And it was one of those things where you go online, and the hardest part about it for us was that everybody else didn't seem to have a problem. Nobody we tried the same exact strategies everyone else was doing. We could not beat it. And that was like almost a break moment for a lot of us. Like, maybe we should just step away. Because we would try day after day with a different strategy. We could not get it down. And the Order of Courage was kind of like that. And then we finally got it. And I was like, this is that, like, amazing golf shot that keeps you coming back every week. This is the moment that I love 11 for.
Speaking of Order of Courage, the first video I actually ever appear in wasn't even in on my own channel. The link shell I was in when Eshka Ruan came out, we managed to get Order of Courage beat eventually, but the first video I show up in, we're doing the whole Black Mage Magic Burst method with death and gravitations and whatnot. We get Order of Courage down to 1%, benedictions, and then megens. And you just
that is like the ultimate finger, dude.
Yeah, literally. You just literally hear everyone in the call going, "Oh wow, benediction!" And then one guy's like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And just, "Oh yeah, I'll PM you it afterwards." It's one of the first videos
that is hilarious. Yeah, we definitely got to get that.
Brutal.
And I was literally just at my laptop like, oh god, because you see, like, I'm the guy on Rune Fencer and everyone else is dead. I'm like, oh fuck.
A Benny to a Majin. But what another great thing about the other night though was, I might be wrong, but was any of you mastered? You all just had like anywhere from like 500 to 1,000 job points or something?
So the one guy, Mog, definitely was. But he was probably mastered. No.
I didn't see any stars unless you turned them off.
The jobs that we were on when we won, I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mog, Epic, and Hayden are all mastered on a couple different jobs. The big joke is that I've never mastered anything, and I always complain and moan about the job point grind.
Well, your 75 ways carried over, right? Where you hit 75 and you just start on something else. So
it's really tough. I start working on a single job like that, and everyone's like, just grind it out. The furthest I ever made was with Blue Mage, and during one of the campaigns, I got it all the way to 1,200, but I couldn't bring myself to go beyond that because I'm like, 1,200 is the last amazing gift where you get the job trait bonus, and then after that, it's like you get the last few bonuses, and then obviously the mastery, the stars, and everything. Which isn't insignificant, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. And then I always get, like 100 job points, 300, 500. And then I switch it up and I start doing something else. Everyone's like, what are you doing? Just finish one of these. But it really hit us during that fight because obviously the mastery would have helped significantly. Because we tried the same exact setup the week before and got it down to, I think, 20%. And then could barely get it any further. And then after we did some job points on 2 of those summoners, it helped a lot.
Yeah,
you did it.
It kind of blows people's minds when sometimes I'll shout for a complete random pickup group to go to Rakazna in a court, which is the best CP spot in the game, easily. Yeah. And since we got a whole month's worth of CP campaign incidentally coming up, I was going to go take my summoner down there and get it sorted out.
Rua summoner? I thought he said a few episodes ago he would never do that.
I like pushing the envelope. I want to try and show, okay, here's what Summoner can do as a support DPS a la core, not just something you use for zerging shit.
I'll be interested to see that one, but
our conversation with Frode kind of got me thinking again. Like, it can be done.
Got the gears turning.
Yeah, it just needs someone to show it.
Yeah, we're the same. Like, from what you said, Hunter, about people kind of having their own ways. Like, I mean, we're the same way, because especially when we came back, and Bob, I don't know if he was there in the very, very beginning, but like the first couple Rising Gemas,
August. So
yeah, the first couple Rising Gemas we did, we went in with 18 people, and everyone was like, "What the hell are you doing?" Like, you realize stuff scales, right? And like it was just mass wipe over and over and over. And
I think it was because that was I want to say that was October time frame, or was that the October clears we did? Was that our second Aeonic clears?
No, that's when we could actually kill some of the stuff. When we first started, I mean, it was just like, hey, here's this link shell. If you just came back, let's go do some stuff. And then we had like a couple like veteran people, and then we were out there, and it was just like we got to like tier 2s and 3s, and 18 people scaled with no gear. It was ugly, but it was fun. But the thing is, you know, we started to learn the mechanics. You learn the moves. You get a little bit better gear. So everyone still learns stuff. So, but it was the same thing then. Of people were just like, "You guys, what are you doing? This is how you should do this content." I'm like, cool. Well, we're gonna go with 18 people. So thanks.
Yeah, you should definitely toe down Albumin and go with 6 to 9. You said 18, bud. Gotcha. We got you.
We eventually did it after a month. Yeah, we did we'll never do it again because it was awful and everyone hated their life. But we did like 32 Aeonics in the 3 weeks or something like that. 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But it was
plan right now is if I can get those God hands. Monk and Pup Mastery is coming. Pup is actually the second highest job points of Fury, I think, at like 500. But I'm waiting on the God hands to finish it off.
Rua's got a Pup video in the works, so it would be good.
We had 2 full alliances, and of that alliance, that was including 4 people's alts.
Yeah.
And but now it was useful alts like things like Idris Geo, you know, not completely useless alts like Black Mage.
Ninja.
hey, come on now, bitch.
One day. So what
one
do you
day they'll give Ninja the monk treatment. Until then, you'd be one of the 6 worst jobs in the game. It's fine though.
Yeah.
I love doing stuff with my Ninja though. But I agree, it needs a tweak.
Or 10.
Well, I mean, it really needs like what Square's doing with Beastmaster now and being like, this is how we want you to play Ninja. Because now they finally came out and said, we want Beastmasters to fight with their pets, not just stand back and jerk their ween.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what this update brings to, because I love the idea that they're saying that. They're like, we're pushing this as a concept. I'm like, cool. What are you doing to enable such behavior? Because nobody seems to really want to bring Beast to stuff or be Beast at stuff.
Well, I mean, they said they're giving it an accuracy and subtle blow bonus when they when they're fighting the same target their pet's fighting. Now, is this going to be an accuracy subtle blow bonus like they're notorious for doing, where it's like, yo, dog, here's 10 accuracy and 5 subtle blow. Merry Christmas.
My money is on 25% bonus for both.
25%?
Yeah,
25%?
Yeah.
Because that's like 250 accuracy, bud.
Well, have you seen what Beastmaster's native accuracy is when it's not?
I know their accuracy's dog shit, but like,
yeah,
putting it mildly.
The reason I'm saying 25 is because the attack bonus and defense bonus a Dragoon gets from their Wyvern is 20 to 25%.
Okay. So the code's probably already there, so they don't have to make any new code on their PS2 dev kit. But
pretty much, yeah.
They don't have to run those last 5 hamsters into the ground.
And also all the recent abilities they've been adding lately seem to have 25% on them. Like Paladin's Rampart is SDT2 minus 25%. Majesty's Cure Potency 2, 25%. They just seem to have an affinity for that number.
Fair argument.
I will put good money on that. But for Beastmaster overall, this is the only other thing I can really say on the meta. In the words of Batman, people need radical examples to shake them out of apathy. So,
11 is 100% true.
That is true. I mean, especially if you get on the forums and read everything. It's interesting.
Oh, yeah. The forums. Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's look at it this way. Constructively, the newest piece of content that people actively participate in for endgame being Omen and Dynamis. Those are how many years old again? You know, for lack of a better way to put it, the game's figured out.
Yep.
And that's where, and once something is figured out, a meta gets set in stone. And all of the work you could do to change that stone is not going to change the meta until something drastic makes the meta change. It's the exact same way no matter what game you play. You could be playing anything from Hello Kitty Online Adventure to fucking Call of Duty. Whatever the meta is, it will literally take something absolutely drastic to change it.
I would like to know a little bit more about the meta of Hello Kitty Online Adventure.
Right? Yeah, I guess got
Hey,
real
man,
interested.
good question.
Could be
Let's go
another
Google that shit.
another episode for a later date. So, well, I do want to talk a little bit about the content, but before we do, just to finish the train of thought around kind of some of the community things, there's a couple points I have. The first is like, I don't know. So I don't know as much recently, but you used to make a lot of content for other games too. Do you think like the play style or like what 11 has instilled in you, like when you go play other games, has any of that come out? It's kind of a tough question, but
no, I know what you mean. I think it kind of almost in a reverse way, like because 11 is such a huge grind and I put so much time into it. It's hard for me to play other grindy games because I constantly am sitting there thinking I could be grinding in 11. I could be making so much progress, which is backwards and wrong. Like I can play other games, but I feel like I'm wasting time. And it's something, I think it's a little bit to do with like the single player versus multiplayer aspect. Like if it's just a long-winded kind of grindy single player game, there's a good chance I'll never beat it. Because I look at that grind, I'm like, I'm not sharing this with anybody. It's just me, myself, and I at home. And I sell myself on the grind at 11 because it's a shared experience and I end up doing stuff with other people later because of that grind or getting cool rewards that are persistent. But it always feels like what if, I mean, this is an old example, but like what if I lose that memory card on that single player game? Like that time is just gone forever. But it's I kind of hate it about myself because there's a lot of really cool games I want to get invested in, and I struggle so hard because of my experience with 11.
Yeah, I think for me, like the biggest thing is I think there's been some positive things. Like I think it's created a level of patience for myself in other games, just because you know it took me 3 years to build Excalibur. Rest in peace. That poor sword is worthless.
Hey, it's still doing better than Mandao. Okay.
So, but at the same time, that level of patience has also kind of created a disdain for other games. So, because you can get things so much faster, it just doesn't mean as much, I guess. I don't know. So, you know, if you like in 14, it's like it's a revolving every 3 months. They're going to reset, you know, like whatever you do. So it's like whatever I get in 3 months is going to be worthless, you know? So it's like it's hard to kind of carry over. So I guess it's been a positive and a negative thing, but so I guess in terms of other community stuff, like I think one, there's already been an uptick. The gentleman that you did a video with, Rua, actually messaged me a few months ago and was like, "Hey, just thanks for the podcast. I just feel like making videos again." And then like his ideas have actually started to get a lot better. And I love like that video that you all did. I thought was great. I don't know
Rossetti,
if you've seen it.
Yeah, Rossetti.
Yep. What's the name of his channel?
Retired. It's Retired Gamers.
Retired Gamers. If you haven't seen it, Hunter, you should check it out. He invited people from the community to do to pronounce different words within the game. And he did the same words with different people, and it was a really good video. Like,
I think I won.
I would have done terribly.
Yeah. So, but it's stuff like that. I'm just like, okay, as more content gets created, like I think everyone kind of has their own little personality, and those ideas start turning and being generated. So, you know, what tips do you have? So, if there's anyone out there that might listen to this and they just want to get into something, is there any little tips and tricks that you have that kind of helps you come up with ideas or things that they could do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like the classic. I feel like I get stuck with writer's block every time I go to do anything. And videos about 11 are no secret. But it's funny because 11 has always been sort of my fallback topic. And before it was sort of the focus of the channel. Because I've got such a history with 11, it became like let's pick something out of a hat and what do we want to talk about this week? But in general, for like tips for coming up with good ideas to talk about, whatever you've been interested in this week, my one buddy is constantly telling me, he's like, why don't you do a guide about this kind of content? And it'll be something like, as a really bad example, leveling to 99 from 75. And I was like, everybody knows how to do that. It's not complicated. Nobody wants to see a video about that. And then I would do a video about that. and it would do really well. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I thought I was the last one at the party. No idea is a dumb idea. You are not the last one at the party. For everything that you've just learned in 2020 about this game, there are countless people who either haven't played yet and are about to, or have just never really tried or didn't know that content existed, didn't know anything about the process. I'm still learning about this game every day. I feel like I'm always the one who knows the least about Final Fantasy 11 whenever I play with anybody. But yeah, I mean, whatever. Just don't talk yourself out of any idea.
Yeah. Can I chime something in as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Don't be afraid. I know this is going to sound quite preachy, but when I first started my channel earnestly, when I did my first Rune Fencer guide, and you can tell, if you listen to that old Rune Fencer guide, you can tell I don't sound anything like I do now.
He used a little, those things that you rode back in the day to call someone. That's what he's doing in that video. I'm just kidding.
He's got it on a rotary phone.
I was really nervous. I was really anxious because, like, what if I put this out? I get hit with a massive storm of, like, controversy. People say, that's wrong, blah, blah, blah. Why are you even doing this? But you notice as I do more and more content, I just get better at projecting myself. And a lot of that was down to anxiety, and that will probably put a lot of people off doing something similar. But as far as I can, what I can say is, don't be afraid. You are always going to get detractors. You just kind of have to roll with it. If you have an idea, if you care about it and you care enough to make it interesting, if it's interesting to you and you can make it interesting, do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hunter made a phenomenal point of, like, no idea is like, well, he didn't say these words, but no idea is too small, essentially. But that's the type of game that we play. We play a niche game. So exactly. I think we have this mentality of, like, these topics that I come up with, no one's probably going to be interested, but we play a niche game, so people have niche mindsets. So there's probably a ton of people out there looking for all these topics that you wouldn't think about. So I think, if you just run with one, and then if you have the presentation to be able to sell what you're talking about, it works. So do you have something to say? It looked like you had a good idea there.
Yeah, go ahead, Hunter.
It made me think of two things. The one that I 100% agree. I watched a video sort of in preparation for a video I was doing this weekend that I made like 4 years ago. And I was like, wow, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't believe anybody watched it. It was one of the most successful videos at the time. So, like, it's a constantly evolving process, and you find stuff that you like about how you're doing it and what you don't like. But don't be afraid to just try it. And then my one buddy is still kind of working through his own process, and he made a video 2 weeks, or I guess it was longer than that, about that ambuscade fight we could not win. The whole video was just one of our failed fights about him basically complaining, like, this is how you do it. It was just a sarcastic guide where he just ran through all the things that you should do, with it ending in utter failure at the end. He's like, just keep trying, it'll work out eventually. And he just, like, slams the keyboard shut because we never beat that stupid fight.
He never did beat it.
I make a guide about this video, but we've never actually won, so I can't make a guide about this stupid fight.
Yeah.
The other thing to keep in mind is that, especially in any online game community, like, if you know something and you can share it, like, literally there's countless other people. Rua's videos are pulling significant viewers. Hunter's videos are pulling a good amount of video viewers, and our podcast pulls a decent amount of views between each month. Like, if you know something, share it. The forums are always fairly active. The Reddit, although I usually try and avoid the Reddit, is always fairly active. And
the 11 Reddit's not bad. It's not bad.
It's not like MMORPG subreddit where it's just like everybody hating on 11. It is mostly people that are very happy about it and still like 11. It's just
it's not terrible.
The 11 Reddit has, like, two exact opposite ends of the spectrum. Like, there is no middle ground. You have your ultra casual, I just hit level 75, I've been playing for 16 years. And then you have your, here's my 22nd master job, I've got 45 Rimas, and there's nobody in between.
I don't know. It's not that bad. Although, whenever I first started the Link Shell a year and a half ago, you can go back and probably find my post this dude went ham on me. Like he was like, I don't even remember like what the controversy was. Oh, it was because like, so I laid out like what the link shell was about. And since we had like a guild bank or a link shell bank in there, he's like, I don't know, man. He's got so triggered, and everyone was like, what was wrong with this dude? But the community wasn't too terrible there. But
yeah, but the internet's the internet. You're always going to find people that are frustrated with you for whatever reason. I remember the meanest thing. It's not the meanest thing, but it hit me the hardest for some random reason. The meanest thing that anybody ever said to one of my videos was, you would think after having played this game so long that you would be better at it. And I thought about that post for like weeks. I was like, oh my, it just hit me like so deep.
Just contemplate everything that I'm doing right now.
Yeah, people that did the most scathing things, and I was like, oh, like, okay, you're so pissed, like whatever. But that like hit me really hard. There's always going to be that post that like somebody manages to get you, but you just gotta let that stuff.
Yeah, we get like most of our comments are actually pretty good, but there's some, there's always that one guy. There's this one guy who follows all of our videos around just to dislike it and makes some nasty comment. Like literally, I'm just convinced he subscribed to the channel just so he can come in and troll, dude. But more power to him, man. Thanks for the view.
All I want to say is thank you to that guy, because hey, can you shut that boomer up and tell him to quit drinking while he's doing his podcast? Hey, bud, I fucking love you, all right? Your mother
Thanks for the view.
But I do.
I always follow up with like, hey, man, thanks for the amazing feedback. Appreciate it. When they
That's what I say. You should, like, if you look at my comments, I say, thank you so much for the listen, and then we love the feedback. Like, I'm like super passive aggressive. Yeah. Go ahead, Rua. Sorry.
Well, I know that I still have a fatwa out on me from the Puppet Master community. So
yeah. You created a rumbling. Like people post on our videos about your Puppet Master thoughts. I'm like, listen, I can't answer for this man. Okay, like he has his own channel.
Dude, but I've said my bit. But yeah, I noticed.
I can answer for him. Here you go. If you want a tank and you're playing Puppet Master right now, go level a tank. Like,
well, we can listen. You can do the content. And I don't think that was the point of it. It was just, but anyways,
we answered it. Puppet Master solved.
Yeah.
But I noticed there was I had a couple of stalkers myself who just probably subbed to the channel after that whole debacle just to give grief.
Just to lay into you.
And normally it's fucking hilarious. I'm sure that Hunter's gotten a few of these as well. But the YouTube filter sometimes catches comments.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's been some very, very unsavory ones that have been caught. I'm like, well, yeah, even if it did end up, and some of them have slipped through, and I just go and like love them, comment, highlight them, and just try and like counter troll. Yeah, and I'll just go and counter troll.
I mean, it's a good thing you're on a server. You have plenty of practice with that counter troll, right?
Yeah, he's got that FU Lua, so he's got that ultimate filter.
I'm not joking. That is actually a real thing.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I generally avoid yelling out in Azure unless I'm making a group for something, because I know if I do, there's going to be certain people who are just going to troll. I'm preaching to the choir here. Azura is fucking Mos Eisley. It is. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. But you'll also find your occasional Obi-Wan or Han Solo.
It's like such a love-hate relationship with the server. It is. Well, the thing is, like, there's, and this goes back to just the content stuff. I'm like, the more content that I see people putting out, like these little gems start popping up more and more. So I think some of it's like we've let it kind of cloud our mind of, we've let Yell Chat kind of decide what the server is. And this too, I'd like to hear your thoughts. No one ever wants to talk about this, but this is my most passionate thing. I wish they would update the link shell system. Like, I feel like if they updated what you could do with a link shell to something more 14-esque, like there needs to be more incentive for people to go out and create communities on the server. And right now, I think it's like the link shell, if you like, we do everything outside the game for organizing everything. There's nothing in the game that makes that easier. So, if you run with a smaller group, it's not as much to relate with, but there's just no incentive for someone to go out and organize a big link shell beyond having people in it whenever you log in. But I don't know. That's my rant that I usually do every podcast. So
half that answer is really just because we're too dumb to just stick to 18-ish people. But, we have our bright idea is like, you know what? Let's make a link shell. But I don't want to make a link shell. I want to make a big fucking link shell. I want to run 32 people through an Aeonic clear.
Like
Not
Reddit.
because we're geniuses, but that's what we're gonna do.
What'd you say, Rua?
Like Reddit.
Yeah, that is true. I did get that link shell when I came back to the game, but so okay, let's I guess let's move into a little bit on this. We'll talk a little bit about I think the update coming up. What before we get into some of the questions, man? Like, what are you looking forward to? What are your hopes and dreams for this new content, Hunter, and where it leads to, if anything?
I mean, you're gonna make me go way outside the scope of like realism of what I actually expect. Because
listen. I guess Rua does it. Okay, we want you to do it.
Hopes and dreams are the biggest complaint I've had since coming back at 119 is that the game has slowly shifted more and more away from Vana'diel as a whole, and it's mostly focused now on the few areas and content types that like 119 kind of revolves around. The Dynamics Divergence, Omen, Pryzanjima, Ambuscade, Delve for a couple things, like Skirmish for very rarely for things. But even like the items you need for pops and everything all revolve around that.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to do this with their like small story update that I expect, but I would love to see more stuff that kind of brings you back into the world as a whole. Like maybe, ideally, I'd love to see things like job points and capacity point parties expand beyond just inner Rexnard, Doe Gates,
right?
Mo Gates.
Yeah,
I would love to go back to Dunes parties and stuff, but against capacity mobs. Again, I don't think they're going to do any of that with this. What I expect is, a fun little storyline run that probably won't go too far with this update because it's going to be over the course of a couple of updates. This will be the sort of the lead-in, and then culminate in hopefully something kind of cool. I would love to see new areas. I think, if anything, a slightly more likely scenario is that we maybe see new Eshka versions of areas, like an Eshka Alteu or in something like that, where it's we take an existing area and just kind of like morph it a little bit based on just the amount of people working on it right now. I'd be shocked if we had totally new artwork and new areas that never before been seen. But that would be amazing. I would love to see new things. I want to see new places, new things, new mobs would be cool. I don't expect any of that. I expect more reasonably for it to be a new storyline within the scope of the stuff that we already have access to, with maybe some new content, new fights.
We know. I mean, we've got a little bit of an indicator. The first thing, though, just to clarify a little bit, is that they actually, word for word, I have it pulled up, says this is mini updates. There are many updates for the storyline coming. So, and we also know, we don't know, but it's hinted at Aroha and Tenzin. And you have to have Rhapsodies completed.
Yeah, that's the real.
So this could support what you want a little bit in it taking us to other places, and expanding on, even if it's just like what you said, bringing higher level mobs out, or Apex mobs and stuff outside of the current zones that we have. But I'm pretty sure Rue and Bob probably have some ideas on this, but we do have some indication.
Yeah, the ultimate pipe dream. This is really onto Fantasy Island, like I said last time, that these many updates are just story lead-in for the 20th anniversary, and there's a massive bombshell that drops on the 20th anniversary. Like, they have a game engine over. There's a whole new expansion in the Far East where Tenzin and Roha are from.
Mm-hmm.
Far East.
That's like far out remote chance, but that you want to talk about something that would bring a lot of players back.
Yeah, the Far East is like a meme at this point. It's like the Far East.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Well-
it's been mentioned since vanilla Final Fantasy, and the only thing we've really gotten out of the Far East is ninja and samurai.
You do have some people from the Far East, and some lore that we do know about it. I mean, that ninja, that Yugudo ninja who shows up in
Gesho?
Artagan, Gesho, yeah, he's from the Mikado, which is one of the main continent. It's one of the main nations there. But yeah, that's a bit of an outside chance, but that would be pretty incredible.
It'd be awesome.
I mean, the Far East, like it really is. I mean, it's the exact same as like the Mithrin homeworld. We know about it, or the homeland.
Yeah.
Excuse me. We know about it. It exists.
There's 2 people from it.
Yeah, there's 2 people that live there. They live happily. They're the only people there.
Well,
No conflict.
you've got 2 people who come from there who we both get to know quite well through in-game stories. Leiko and Mili, those are the 2. But yeah, the thing which gives me hope is the fact that they have merged the online division, and maybe they are looking to just kind of push this as far as they can.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I don't know a bunch about Japanese culture, but I feel like they're pretty careful about the words that they use a lot of times.
They
I don't
are.
know. And for them to say many version updates rather than just a few, knowing that we've got a 20th anniversary, like, my optimistic part is like they're going to use this to lead into something big. And
correct me if I'm wrong, but when EverQuest had its 20th anniversary, wasn't there something similar?
I have no idea. Never played it.
I would have to Google that. I'm not even gonna lie.
I just remember, it's a very hazy, vague memory, but when EverQuest had its 20th anniversary, because it's definitely that old, I seem to recall they had a game engine update, and they also had another expansion come out, because it was making big news in gaming circles. Like, a game this old is still updating content. There's new expansions. Like, yeah, Google it afterwards, but I'm pretty sure that happened. So it's not unprecedented if it is.
Well, I think too, what's interesting is that
So part of what they did is they released a vanilla server and a fast progression server, which the vanilla server was just like, let's go back to day 1. And the fast progression server went through 20 years of EverQuest content in 12-week increments. And
well, either way, I mean, like I said,
I mean, both of those are actually pretty cool. But
well, I think what's interesting though is that, like, prior, or at least a couple years ago, maybe a few years ago now, maybe when I quit last, they said like all of the content that we're going to make now is geared towards like our in-game community and providing harder things for them to do. And I think they're kind of backtracking that on a little bit, because if you like to read the last few things, it's like, oh, we have all these new people, all these returning players. And I think, or hopefully for Hunter's sake, is they're going back to, okay, maybe there is a need for us to re-engage the community around Vana'diel, and there's actually some value in creating this that will actually bring people back into the game. And I think it just all culminates with a lot of the content that's still created too. And like you said, man, it's just trying to die, but we won't let it. And
I mean, they're making their own content now. They've got their own live stream that's kind of geared towards reintroducing players. Because I think you're right. I think they've noticed now that for the first time ever, they have players that are entering Vana'diel for the first time that have no idea what's going on in 2020. And they're like, we could make a tutorial. Does anybody want that? And I guess somebody's experience is like, I think there's value. Let's do it.
Well, what's interesting too is like, if you go back and I go back to this like no clip documentary on 14, is that they really didn't listen too much to the community when they went in to make 14. And
no, they didn't.
So they were so far behind on many aspects. And one of the biggest things that I found interesting was that they didn't have a way to create assets without having the item physically present. And I don't want to butcher this, but you can go watch it, but it would take them for 14 weeks to add new items into the game because they were going on such level of detail. And I think that goes a little bit with now with 11 is like they don't realize the technology out there that is keeping this game alive is like you have Twitch streaming, you've got YouTube channels. I think they undervalued the power of kind of the technology that exists with the community that exists and kind of putting those two together to kind of maintain the demand for the game. So I don't know.
I wonder, this is slightly related, but do we know if there's any Japanese player base community channels like myself or Hunter?
I've tried finding them.
For on YouTube, I'm not sure. I know there's a couple of Japanese streamers on Twitch. There's a Russian streamer on Twitch. I don't know what he says. I just recognize the symbols. Forgive me.
I don't think so because like listening to some of those interviews for the people who worked on 11 and made 14, they talked about how the Japanese community is very like they're not into that. Like they're very like reserved. So like I think that's why. And like too, I mean, like I think a lot of people they listen to their Japanese community more on the forums and stuff, but yet like the Western community I think is the one kind of keeping it alive, to be honest with you. But,
yeah,
I think they're realizing that.
Yeah, I'm asking because I'm already going to be doing a follow-up to that real world mythology and history video I did. And there's 2 Japanese players on Azura I'm not going to name, but I know them quite well. And they're going to be helping me out because I came to them and said, look, I know there's a lot of Japanese folklore, history, and mythology in this game, but I'm a complete scrub when it comes to stuff from your neck of the woods, and they're just going to help me out. So
that's awesome. Look forward to that.
So,
yeah, it's a while away, but that kind of got me thinking. Like, hang on, why didn't you guys have any channels or things like that already? Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just kind of what got me thinking. But
no, I think it goes back to a little bit. I think it's just like the culture. I think like I'm not sure if there's anyone out there that's Japanese and understands. I will say, interesting enough though, like the past 2 episodes, when I look at the analytics, I use Podbean to actually connect it to all the podcast things, and the Japanese viewership, like there's actual Japanese viewership now, or listenship, whatever it's called. So I guess you're listening, and that never happened before. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, really? Like, is that me? Like,
yeah.
But no, it was cool. So, anything else about the this update that kind of excited you, Hunter? Anything else?
I'm obviously thrilled, and just like a high level, that we're still getting updates every month, and it's really cool to finally see some story updates. I'm glad they're tweaking Beastmaster, especially because I think wasn't Beastmaster one that they already adjusted.
Oh yeah,
they've adjusted it either every month or every other month for like the last 18 months.
3 times.
So I'm glad. The one job that keeps coming to mind is their White Mage update. And I forget what the ability was, but it changed the AoE nature. It like removed functionality from the Nah spells, I think.
Yeah, I can explain in about 30 seconds or so. Okay, what they did with White Mage, they changed Aflatus Misery, which is one of its 2 stances, and they buffed the absolute shit out of Asuna. Asuna was so strong. Like Asuna was changed to a single target, but it removed everything on the person you cast it on, including amnesia.
Amnesia was a big one.
For once, we could finally remove amnesia. I'm like, holy shit! It was a big buff to Misery because they buffed the shit out of Cura spells. And what kind of made people rage is that they nerfed Sacrifice to only remove like 1 or 2 debuffs rather than rip it all off the player. So some people thought it was such a big shift in the way White Mage had been played because they thought White Mage was only meant to be on the back line. But some fights you can't help but be in range. So they literally reverted the entire update and went full Homer Simpson. So
yeah. Well, a lot of that was from Japanese community too, though. There was a mega long Japanese post about that, and anyways,
they backed down.
So part of the reason I bring that one up is for better or worse, it is good to see that they will try something and they're seeing feedback from the community and saying, okay, this may not has been received the way we want it to, and they back it up. I was really worried when they started doing this sort of like every, 1 or 2 jobs every month on the month, that they were going to do what they wanted. And if it happened to ruin your job, too bad. It's 2019, 2020. And Square Enix is going to try and do what they think is right. Like that's what's up. And when they removed the White Mage update, all I had seen was the rage. I had no idea that anybody even remotely enjoyed it. So that's an interesting new tidbit for me. But I was like, okay, so Square Enix is saying, we tried something, people didn't like it, we're taking it back. And with Beastmaster, they're kind of showing that a little bit more by saying, we're determined to make Beastmaster work. And even though it still somehow does not work, we're going to keep tweaking. Because whenever it is the worst feeling in the world when you've got a job, like it would be for me with Ninja, if a Ninja update came out and basically did nothing. And I was
they already had that happen. That happened last year.
So the last one,
they nerfed, they buffed your sand spell, all your ninja spells that
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, they there was no positive. They were just like, hey, magic attack bonus burst on the Ninja.
Yeah, it was them fixing Ninja like they had Red Mage and all that other shit, and all it really did is like, well, magic bursting's even worse now, guys. Good job.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Beastmaster is one of those jobs they have to be really, really careful with, because if they overbuff Beastmaster, everyone's going to hop back on Beastmaster. I'm not sure you guys probably remember when Race and Gma came out, we got revitalizers, like straight up revitalizers. Beastmasters were tearing through everything. It's like literally literally just tearing through everything. Like, you guys are going to be really careful how you buff this job, because I know about the applications of some of its pets, but most people don't, and that Beastmaster nerf left such an impression that the job's been deserted pretty much.
We won't, I guess, if you want to dive super deep, you can listen to Fridays, but I think what sums it up is I think the community got a little lazy with Beastmaster and just saw the job as one way, when really there's this whole other element that has really been opened up since, for me, Rua started talking about it, of all these things that these pets can do, and the fact that it stacks with other jobs, and not knowing about all these things. I did see an interesting comment though that maybe people just don't realize or didn't hit home, is that there used to be an element of accuracy in some of these things. So the things that can't miss, so like the ooze and all that, I guess used to not be 100% land. And someone called that out, that they actually did an update to where all of these pet abilities that now have 100% accuracy didn't always exist. And I don't know if that got lost in translation, but or just really the job itself just kind of didn't get the attention. But I think they're really trying to kind of bring it back in hopefully a good way. So
well, I know even back in the 75 days, Beastmaster, they always kind of wanted to try and have it play with its pet, not just kind of be a shitty summoner. And well, when you play a job that's not summoner, like a shitty summoner, guess what, bud? You're gonna suck.
Or it's not gonna have much. You're
not gonna have any impact.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
just literally aren't.
There. Where people, it was so hard to get people to accept Beastmaster into the partying community, even after the change where the summoned pets no longer affected your XP, and people just could never snap out of that mindset.
Yep.
I still think I struggled. I would be like, I don't know, is it gonna work?
You would still. As a Beastmaster itself, you was still at that time just a shitty warrior, because everybody was sub ninja, everybody was running Rampage or Vorpal Blade. But
maybe just the Chinese and Ztal put a bad taste in everyone's mouth with their grasshoppers running everywhere, selling capped XP parties. So
bouncing Rice Bowl. Bouncing Bertho, whatever it is.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into. Christ. Is that a strong one? Is that a hot one? Listen, don't die on a live stream. You are literally in the future. You're literally 16 hours ahead of me. I can't save you. I can't do anything about it. I don't know your phone number.
I forgot this was here. It's room temperature. Who does that to fuck someone?
How terrible would that to be? That recording a podcast and one of your host, dies on some hot coffee. Oh my god!
Hey, it's tea, not coffee. 1 and 2. He let it cool. He did it to himself. Who does that to somebody?
I was so wrapped up, I completely forgot it was there. All right.
Who drinks warm beer?
When it's all that's left, anyone, I think so. Okay, so let's get into some community questions, and we'll direct them at Hunter first, and then obviously we'll have some dialogue around it. So there's just a few that I kind of picked out that I think were most relevant for the episode. So the first one, I didn't get permission to say names, so I won't say names, but the first one says, in this pretty much in this mythical, magical unicorn world, if you could uncap sub jobs, what would be your favorite combo? And just for poops and giggles, you get their job points, job points and gear. So essentially, if you could be 2 jobs at the same time, what would be your favorite combo?
This is an easier question for me to answer at 75. Okay. Because 75, there were so many crazy, like Red Mage was the obvious one with refresh and convert. And like that was such a big game changer at 75 that now everybody kind of gets. But it's still a huge one because Red Mage gets refresh too.
3.
Yeah, 3. Oh, did my camera just like decided?
Yeah, your camera just self-destructed.
That no signal looked like something from Windows 95, dude. What was that?
I don't think so. Yeah, it's like, did you just mention Red Mage? No, but actually Red Mage would still be a pretty good one at 99 because you get, if you had truly like skills, gear, and spell damage, all the buffs and cures and everything that Red Mage can do. But I don't know, that's a tough one.
You can pair that with, though.
Well,
you get both. Like they're saying, like, what would be your favorite job combo? Like you get.
So I'm thinking, I guess I'm thinking all the things that you would, if I'm pairing it with something, anything that would want amazing refresh. But see, this is where people that are way smarter than me would be better. Because anybody who's played Final Fantasy Tactics, I realized years after the fact that I played Final Fantasy Tactics wrong. Because I tried to pair things that were like classes. And if you played Final Fantasy Tactics, apparently it makes a lot more sense to fill in gaps, or maybe I'm thinking of Final Fantasy 12 system, where the new one where you could do sub jobs, sort of. You essentially counter what your main class was capable of to fill in gaps that it didn't have, like hand-to-hand strength for a black mage, which doesn't make any sense in the course of 11, mostly because of the skill system. So that's where you could do crazy things like have a monk black mage that truly has the strength of both, or actually samurai black mage. What am I saying? You just like self skill chain and then self burst, huge death skill chain bursts on everything. It's just you'd break the game in a beautiful way for like however long you want to do that, because you just counter anything that you couldn't do as your main job.
You could just do with your other job.
You could just do everything.
Rua, you look like you're chomping at the bit here, man. You look like you've been waiting for this question for years.
Well, there is actually, if someone's really interested in this, there is a way in game you can see what this would mean. Go to Monstrosity. Because in Monstrosity, it's not. I won't spend long. But seriously, Monstrosity monsters you possess, both the main job and the sub job are max level.
Okay.
It is exactly this. It's exactly this. So I would be on like the Elsamoth, which is the behemoth, which has got all the patches and dark patches on it. It's level 99 Dark Knight, level 99 Thief. It's got all the traits, all the abilities of both.
Wow, so it already exists. So Rua's got a new video coming out in a couple months saying what if.
It exists. Yeah, it exists.
So would you make a more flexible job or a super powered, like a paladin rune fencer or the monk black mage combo?
Do you want to know what the most broken combination of jobs in the game would be? Blue mage, sub red mage, both max level.
Yeah, I mean that can
based
do
on
anything.
job points or based on
everything.
He said exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah,
I was thinking.
If you want to throw the whole kit and caboodle, then that is literally unbeatable. You get that, you are a one-man army. you are not losing.
You mentioned being able. What's the highest protect and shell that Red Mage can do? Is it 5?
5?
5, yeah.
So protect 5, cocoon combo, with
Phalanx.
ultimate blue magic field.
Phalanx, yeah.
Shell 5, either Phalanx or Barrier Tusk for things that don't hit as hard, or enough. Barrier Tusk for things that hit hard, or Phalanx for things that don't. And
What
then
am I saying? Blue Mage
Mighty
is
Guard.
definitely, no matter what you do, the other jobs should be Blue Mage because of the trait system alone.
Yeah,
That is
exactly.
Their traits are
Mage.
pretty strong.
If you've got the job point gifts of 1,200 job points, and you can have, I mean, you can give yourself the accuracy, attack, dual wield, like all
Look at
of
us
it
thinking
double
here, like, oh wait, this might actually happen. We're all just here sitting, like, looking
like-
at each other, like,
I'm like,
I like
we
it how you're
disagree.
like,
I think
this-
you should do this.
this
Yeah.
might actually be a
So-
thing. No, guys, it's not. It's
I'm
never
just
gonna happen.
saying for a lot of like your two-handed jobs, I think one of the things that's definitely would end up changing it, especially, would just be Sub Dark Knight. Like literally Samurai Sub Dark Knight having unrestricted access to desperate blows during that, and being able to have the merits to have that. Like you're looking at literally being able to hit something to a ticket of like 90% haste, well fucking just going full ham. And the same thing would be said for like Dark Knight Sub Samurai and all of
On
that.
a,
Like all of your two-handed jobs are just going to absolutely break.
So to bring some reality into the game here, do you think they need to get rid of the damage cap?
Yes.
That's,
And-
sub jobs.
that's a dangerous game.
Well,
Yeah,
I just don't know, like, because I sent you that message that one day, Rue, of like, they either need to, I don't know what the community is coming up with in terms of mechanics is like outplaying a lot of the content.
Yeah.
The other day, when I was on my Ranger with the Kraken Club Savage Blade build, I was doing like 25% of the damage in literally 10-15 seconds with Savage Blade. So it's like either like they need to add more HP or like, I don't know, something with the whole damage system. I think is just off.
I was gonna say because if you do 99k, if you remove the 99k damage buff or damage cap, all of a sudden I can't even imagine the numbers that some of these jobs would be putting out.
Well, I assume you were doing that in Dynamis, were you?
No, this was on Fu.
Okay, because Dynamis Divergence has a mechanic which might be a trial run for a system they might implement universally. If you do the same weapon skill on either it's the Mega Boss or any mob or
Any
NM,
NMs.
yeah, any NMs, if you do the same weapon skill, your weapon skill damage falls hard. Like it drops really hard. So
Yep.
that might be something they're testing the waters with. They do the same thing for Summoner in Battlefields as well. Use the same BP over and over. Its damage just shoots down. As for the only job I'd like to see break the damage cap is Black Mage.
Yeah,
I think
because it's nerfed so hard right now.
Yeah,
I think
Black Mage-
that back the big way.
yeah. If Black Mage was the only job that could actually break the damage cap, then that'd be pretty neat. Especially since you can just nuke twice, maybe 3 times in a burst window, or even just free nuking. You can you can still hit hard, but you've got when you're facing just a cap like that, yeah, it's like Black Mage as the master of elemental magic needs to be able to break the cap on it.
Yep. Especially with the nerf that's in the game around multiple magic bursts. So,
Well, one Magic Burst wall needs to get reworked. Like it either needs to get completely removed or it needs to get reworked because, like right now, if you it doesn't matter if you Magic Burst, it could be a light skill chain. If you Magic Burst fire and then the next dude does thunder, guess what? That thunder still does reduce damage. Like that should not be a thing. It should be like if they wanted to implement a Magic Burst wall, it should have been something like Black Mage A has to do fire, Black Mage B has to do thunder, and C has to do damned arrow. Instead of just like, well, this Black Mage hits for 99k damage, and these Black Mages hit for 5k. Get fucked.
Yeah.
So what? So I guess we'll do another question here. We got a couple more. To harp back to, I guess, some nostalgia here. You probably answered it, I think, but what's one of your favorite, when you think 11, one of your favorite memories with other people in the game? And then do you still play with any of those people now? I'll let, obviously, Hunter answer that one.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's a couple memories that immediately like pop up, and some are the more generic. Like I don't even remember specifics, but like the original Promi fights at the Crags that you'd have to run through the Promethean zones. Like that was such a huge win for me, kind of early on in my 11 career. That relatively compared to the 18 years that it's existed, that I love that whole experience. But I have no idea who I was even with for that fight. Right. And then there's stuff like when I got the Sirocco Kukri with my one buddy one night in college, and like we managed to almost basically whittle it down, and before the Steve showed up and kind of saved our asses. we were definitely not gonna make it. It was like 5% left and we were done.
What mob?
Memories,
who?
Kruzet in Tarragon.
Oh, the what does that drop?
He's like
the
12-hour pop. The Sirocco Kukri is that like low delay dagger with the wind damage at 75.
Yep.
That's the Greater Bird one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
The one that Verdolfinair is now based off of.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The Jugro Kukri is the 119 version of that thing. And that was just one of those stories where even like he was my roommate in college, so the whole nature of the story is very memorable because he was in the room with me. I like woke him up. I was like, it popped. I'm kiting it on Summoner. I can't survive. He like gets out of bed and logs in. We didn't think we could win. The whole nature of everything about the story is hilarious. Plus, we got the drop. It was a really tough fight. It's just like a very good like 11 memory.
Mm-hmm.
But
perfect. Yeah. No, that stuff like that is great. And too, like, especially since you called out the Promethean, like I agree. Like, and it like for me, it was so beautifully designed because it was so epic. The reward was a whole new zone.
Yeah.
Because after you beat the 3 Prometheans, when you get to go into like Lufei's Meadows or whatever, it's like this big green open, and then when you walk to the end of the tunnel, it like sits out over this cliff where you can see the whole continent. It's like, it was like, I thought it was like one of my favorite parts of Chains of Promethea was like the reward for beating those 3.
I mean, Chains of Promethea, in my personal opinion at least, is the best expansion this game's had, just because it's easy to find things that expansion did really, really well, and actually difficult to find things that expansion just absolutely fucked up.
Remember how just like epically ridiculous was it either 5-3 and then like the Ultima like Omega fight like back then?
Yeah, the Tenzin and Ultima Omega.
Now that was just like the ultimate feel good. Like if you beat that, like there's probably not many other games with that level of like, because think like we had to like coordinate with people like then, unless you paid for a 10-slot Ventrilo server, like you're communicating with people through like chat, like typing out mechanics. But okay, so I think this is actually the last question here. So do you like how accessible the game has become, or do you feel like that it's maybe a little bit too easy? So context for the question was, this person just came back to the game, and when he left, he or she, sorry, it was super difficult to get anything. Like if you wanted a Rima, you had to, spend years obtaining it, and now essentially, within a couple months or even less on some things, you can get whatever item that you want. Do you think that's a good shift? Yeah. Do you think that's a good shift for the game, or what do you think?
No, yeah. It's funny because I think that a lot of the times people will assume that because I love the 75 era and I applaud so many things that it did well, that I hate the accessibility of 11 now. And I don't. I wouldn't be playing right now if it wasn't as accessible as it is. If it wasn't as easy as it is to travel and get into some of this content and beat some of the old story content that used to be level capped and some of the hardest stuff. Like we talked about the Promethean missions, that can you imagine trying to do those with trusts if they were level capped and the trusts weren't maybe Shantoto 2 bursts, but like actually appropriately leveled? There's no coordination with trusts, so you just have to hope that you made it through. You'd never do it. So without those changes,
Promethean Volsel would be a massive wall in that case.
That kind of stuff, like we wouldn't even be able to play 11 again right now in most of those cases. So I'm really glad it's that accessible. The only thing I miss, the thing that makes people think that I hate that it's accessible, is that I miss so many aspects of 11 in its 75 era, mostly in just about how you'd interact with the world, that don't really have to happen anymore. The leveling is is a brief tutorial as you breeze your way to 99, and that kind of stuff. It's not that I want it to take longer. I just kind of hate that it's over and done with. Like you're just like you're gone, you're through it. But no, I love that it's accessible. I think that has actually brought more people back to it than would be playing if it was still difficult. Despite the fact that I might lose some fans there because I do love the difficulty and I miss so many things about that. But I think there has to be a give and take in today's gaming climate to have people still playing, still enjoying a game like 11.
Yeah. If I can offer an addendum to that, I think through just sheer necessity, it has to be more casual friendly because let's face it, this game has come along a long way, and you need to be able to potentially get potential new players need to be able to actually partake in the end game rather than just be faced with this massive slog all the way through to get to where they actually want to be. That's why Square Enix is putting so much emphasis on the end game. They're creating content and updates geared towards the end game because they want to get people through and actually, playing with other people in the end game. So, yeah, it's just maybe they'll do a legacy server where someone can experience it the old-fashioned way for those specific people. I still get messages about Eden and Nesomi, but it's just not my thing. But
I'll pass.
For just sheer necessity, you have to have it this way. It's exactly what Hunter said. Is that if it like this, then the game wouldn't even be playable anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we can look just from analytics where the 26 to 35 is the main demographic for our analytics, and hopefully majority of those people are like in real jobs and like there's no way that we can be like we were in high school and college. Like that's our generation now of like spending 12 hours a day like leveling from level 74 to 75. Maybe that's probably even too fast, but I think where they need to get to, and it's somewhat in place now, is like not making it hard to get to 99 and then challenging the player to go experience the story content and maybe like enhancing the rewards for people to actually go through and do all of the missions versus like you can't do Lilith unless you finish COP. So it's almost like you're punishing the user instead of, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's like you're rewarding them to be able to do this content. Yeah, Wings of the Goddess.
Yeah, Wings of
the Goddess. So maybe supplement more a reward system, but then you have Rhapsodies and that kind of rewards you as you complete some of those things. But I don't know. There's definitely a fine line in there, but definitely the quality of life stuff I think is something that's needed. I
think one thing they have definitely done really well is like you can go from new player to actually decently well set up in, I'm not going to say in an extremely a quick amount of time, but you have to take a look at the whole grand scheme of things. Back in the day, it used to literally take a year or 2 years to complete something like Aegis or Burt Gang or Lionheart. Well, not Lionheart, that's a bad example, but any of your REM weapons, your Relic, Empyrean, and Mythics, those used to take a massive amount of time. And still, if you farmed just the items, like if you went out and when you're building your Masamune or your Burt Gang, you go and farm those heavy metal plates and those Alexandrites, it's still going to take a decent amount of time, but it's not going to be anywhere near as bad as it was back in the 75 cap or even in the Abyssia scaling era.
Yeah.
So, like, it's still...
Did you have something?
Massive undertaking there.
That's so good. Just I've only got about 10 minutes left until I've got to be in.
Sure.
So
I think
by the sounds of it, we're almost there anyway.
Yeah. No, that was really our last big question. So other than that, anything that you we got to look forward to from you, Hunter? Any different content? Any maybe some new games that you're going to be stepping into? I don't know. Any teasers?
I hope so. The long-term teasers is because Huntin4Games kind of shifted not entirely, but into a very MMO kind of like concept.
Mhm.
I'm really excited about Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen in the future, and
Okay.
Ashes of Creation. In theory, they keep bouncing back and forth in my excitement level, but I'm hoping they do some good stuff with it. If they deliver on any of the things that they're talking about, it'll be amazing. But yeah, you can always find me on YouTube every week at Huntin4Games, and on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday. So hopefully branching into some new stuff soon. We've been focused on moving, so 11 has been kind of that relaxing, safe space where I don't have to learn new things or
There you go. Yeah.
think too hard.
All right, man. Well, well, I know we appreciate you coming on and
No, yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
and being able to kind of coordinate it, especially while you're moving. But yeah, you guys have anything else before we wrap up, or
just stoked I was able to get an opportunity to speak with you, really, because some of your videos was kind of what I styled my earlier ones on, but not the same format because I didn't want to straight up rip you off. Maybe someday I'll get the same following you do. I never thought I would even get to 5K.
I think you're gonna blast past me in 2 seconds.
all right. Well,
Exactly.
yeah, you need to go back. Yeah, just make sure you go back and look at his first Rune Fencer job guide, and then the rotary mic he was on. But
Please, I cringe whenever I'm
just saying,
I see that.
in between, the reason it took him so long to put that one video together is in between every cut, he's sitting there cranking the fucking generator on that thing so it can get going again.
all right, well, we will wrap up.
10 seconds. Here we go. Let me get my best expression going.
Well, we'll wrap up the podcast here. Thanks everyone who's listening to it live, and then make sure you if you're on Facebook, follow. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. Or if you're on one of the podcasts, and then still looking for that elusive first couple reviews too. So if you're on like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, give us some feedback there too. So we'll make